good? You like the background? I don't know. I didn't do. I'm
I
just
like it like
blurred.
that.
So we'll rock and roll. All right. I want to make sure I'm centered. I'm relaxed. All right, gentlemen. Here we go. I'm going to hit record, and we will be off. What's y'all's opinion on cold starts? And injecting those into videos. Do y'all like cold starts? Do y'all like the idea on that?
Yeah, like do your introduction basically like what we're going to be
Like
talking
you and I
about.
talking, yeah, like you and I talking, or we talk about something like kind of on the off, but it's short and it's funny, and then boom, we drop in, you know. So
Yeah,
I'm
get
gonna,
people engaged in the conversation a little bit before we
yeah,
just start fucking selling, you know?
yeah. All right, I'm recording right now. Here we go.
Oh,
All right, here we go. So yeah, so one of the things, like, I have like a big giant box of coffee Keurig cups, right? And so I think it was like from McDonald's at somewhere I bought, and they have like three different flavors. They have like uh, what is it, like French toast flavor coffee? They have apple pie baked coffee, and they have blueberry coffee. And I'm telling you right now, blueberry is it is the best like flavored coffee you can get. And I just drink my coffee black, right? So, but for something like how my mind works, I have to drink I have to like torture myself
something
to
like
drink
how my mind
every
works.
bit of the French toast and all of the apple pie first before I indulge myself in what I believe is the best flavor. And then once
Oh, you
I'm
say the
done,
best for last. Gotcha.
that's right. I save the best for last, but I have
Well,
to be disciplined, and I got to go through torture and drink the rest of the coffee, which
so
isn't too bad. I mean, honestly, but that's just the way
blueberries are a superfood, by the way.
Nice, nice.
Genius food, in fact.
That's right, man. Well, speaking of that, we're gonna jump into this. We're gonna jump into a couple of episodes right here. Speaking of super, we're gonna jump into some supercharging. Actually, not supercharging, some regular Tesla mobile charging stuff. So,
There you go.
yeah, look. Good morning, folks. Wherever you are out there, welcome. This is the Charge Life Podcast. I am Joseph Arletta, and this is where we discuss EVs and all things EV charging. So glad you could pull over and park with us today. So let's get plugged in. Today's episode's all about home charging, the real reason why Tesla stopped including the mobile connector with the purchase of their EVs. Featuring our special guest speaker, Mr. James Hype, the one and only. James, really glad to have you on the episode, man. We're glad to have you. And look, folks, you guys are going to really love this one. But before we begin today's episode, we're brought to you by Smart Charge America. Since 2007, Smart Charge America has installed tens of thousands of EV charging stations nationwide, and they can do the same for you today. Whether it's in the home, commercial, service, let their team of expert installation specialists guide you to the very best charging solution for your new electric car needs. After all, if you can't charge, you can't drive. Visit smartchargeamerica.com today to get started. So, all right, Gen 1 mobile connector. James, we just got finished talking. You didn't even know there was a Gen 1 mobile connector. So we're going to throw some chronological order.
Do you have one somewhere handy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got to see one of those.
I have one on my 2014 Model S. I have that one. I'll show you next time.
How many miles do you have on that now?
About 148.
Oh, that's not bad.
Oh, and I just had to change out my battery yesterday. Well, I didn't. The mobile guy did. Try to change out your 12-volt battery on your Tesla. It's a nightmare. But look, the Gen 1 mobile connector, it debuted when Tesla debuted the Model S in June of 2012. And it basically lasted all the way up to Christmas of 2017. So just think you had about 4.5 years of a run. It was a really good product. Everyone loved it.
Yeah.
And so my job is to kind of show you guys some of the differences between the Gen 1 and then the Gen 2. And then, of course, the reason why those things started happening and Tesla decided to exclude the Gen 2 mobile connector with the purchase of the vehicle. And so, back in June 2012, like I said, it was debuted. The first generation mobile connector, it was a 50 amp capable charger. So it delivered 40 amps of continuous draw to the vehicle. So that was about 10 kilowatts of power. Roughly, let's just say 29 miles of range per hour. So if you have a NEMA 1450 outlet in your garage, you just plug that bad boy in, plug the other end into your Tesla, boom, you're getting 29 miles of range per hour. You drive 60 miles a day, you come in, you plug in, 2 hours later, you're fully charged and go about your day, right? So that worked really well with most folks out there. And so, but oftentimes because these outlets they pull a like a strong heavy load for a long continuous amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
um, there were oftentimes like the metal connector handle would overheat, basically almost making it unbearable to touch. So Tesla started getting a lot of complaints, so forth and so on some of those. But that mobile connector only came with 3 adapters. The regular wall 120 wall outlet adapter, the NEMA 1450 adapter, and of course
Mm-hmm.
your J1772 adapter. So, and that's for all your public universal charging use. So they did have, believe it or not, a NEMA 650 adapter, but that was only on special order to like
Mm-hmm.
installers like us. And basically, the reason why Tesla did that is they a lot of people had either NEMA 1450 or NEMA 650 outlets existing in their garage for like welding usage or whatever, and they wanted to have that outlet available, so that way their customers didn't need to go and call an electrician to do all of this stuff. They would just throw the adapters there. We did notice the NEMA 650 adapters, they didn't work as well as the NEMA 1450s. NEMA 6, just think of 650 as like 1450 has four prongs on it. It's
Yeah,
got the ground, the 2 hots, and the neutral. The 650 only has the ground and the 2 hots.
got it.
It doesn't have the neutral, so it just has 3. And so the Gen 1, adapters, of course, lo and behold, thank you Apple for this, but they did not actually fit the Gen 2 adapters. And so when in January 2018, when Tesla introduced the Gen 2 mobile connector with the debut of the Tesla Model 3, they basically looked to quench the overheating and reliability issues, as that particular mobile connector was a 40 amp compatible charger, delivering
Mm-hmm.
32 amps of continuous draw to the vehicle. So that's close to about 7.7. So they lowered the power draw that it can actually deliver to the vehicle, which still got you about 20 miles of range per hour. So it was still pretty good,
Right.
And so, but the adapters were more robust, they were built better, they were more weather resistant. And it basically, they included a lot more adapters as well. And so they went from like 5 to, or like 3 to like 6 different adapters. And this allowed for greater flexibility in charging accessibility for that mobile connector, options.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and remember that happened in January of 2018. So Gen 1 lasted June 2012 to December 2017. Debut Model 3, January 2018 comes out, and got the new Gen 2 mobile connector. It's got better adapters, it's got more adapters, it's got a little bit lower of a power output rating, but overall it does the job. And so the National Electric Code debuts a new electric code every 3 years. And so, in 2011, then 2014, 2017, and then in 2020. And so currently this year in 2023, they introduced another one. So the reason why that's so important is because even though the National Electric Code releases the new standard, the municipalities, they themselves have to research, they have to do all these formal meetings, and then they have to process and announce that, hey, as a municipality, we're going to use this code, book, this year's code book, and we've trained all of our inspectors, and that's what they're going out to do inspections wise.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of municipalities are as quick to move as the stuff is being released, and so that process generally takes about a year or so in most
How long?
municipalities. 1 year. So if the new code debuts in 2020, generally most municipalities will continue using either 2017 or 2014 or 2011, depending on how progressive the municipality is. Those are the code books that they're using for their inspectors to
Mm-hmm.
inspect. And so generally it takes about a year for the municipalities to actually start enforcing the newest, latest, and greatest electric code. So in 2020, the release of the Gen 3 wall connector. This was their newest Gen 3 permanent wall charger, right? They called it the wall connector. This was
Mm-hmm.
Wi-Fi enabled. It was their latest and greatest. This allowed Tesla to have access control, smart metering processes. They could do a lot more with the actual connector, and it was connected to your Wi-Fi. And so it was just more robust, way better built. And so
when was the Gen 3 introduced?
the Gen 3 wall connector was introduced January 2020. So at the same time, the National Electric Code comes out at with their 2020, new standings. And with the National Electric Code, when they came out in 2020 with the new electric code standards, there was a provision that literally rippled across the U.S. when it comes to installing these electric car charging outlets, these NEMO 1450 outlets, which the mobile connectors use to plug in. And so inside section 210.8, there was a GFCI protection for personnel, section A in dwelling units. And it stated that all 120 to 240 volt or 125 to 250 volt receptacle plugs installed inside garages to be installed with a GFCI protected breaker. And so this means that when Tesla runs its test cycle, when you plug in, so you remember when you plug in, it's a white, kind of halo around the charging inlet, and you plug in and then it turns blue and then it turns green, right? And then it starts pulsing green. Well, from white to blue, it trips. If I install that outlet down in your garage with a GFCI breaker, it goes from white to blue, and then your breaker trips. And the reason why it trips is because the mobile connector itself already has GFCI protection inside of it. So you ever used two magnets and try to put two magnets together that were on the same poles? You're not going to be able to connect them, right? They repel. And so it's similar stuff like that, but because the Tesla, I guess the GFCI breaker, because it can't tell the Tesla can't tell the difference between a ground fault and a routine test cycle, the breaker trips. And so each time the GFCI breaker trips, it needs to be reset before charging can resume. So just imagine every time you sit there and plug in, it goes from white to blue, and then boom, trips. You got to go to your electric panel, you got to turn it off, turn it on, boom, then it starts. So you got to do it every single time you plug in. That is not sustainable, nor do people enjoy doing that. And so it's just a real pain for that. And so of course, the municipalities, they some start enforcing the newest, latest, and greatest, starting maybe in 2021. Maybe some do it in 2022. We don't know how long it takes, but we know that a majority of local municipalities across the U.S., they began to incorporate and enforce the new 2020 National Electric Code guidelines for their inspection requirements, so forth and so on, around January 2021, and so forth and so on. So as a result of this, in April of 2022, Tesla decided to discontinue including the mobile connector with the purchase of their vehicles.
Right.
And so now you could purchase one online still, and I don't know how much they are now. I know the price changes, so forth and so on, but it's probably like $250 online right now. But Smart Charger America always recommended installing a hardwired Tesla wall connector for your EV's permanent means of charging. So what would happen is people would use the mobile connector as like a permanent means of charging. And it's like, no. You have to understand, the mobile connector is sort of like a get out of jail free card. It's like, it's not meant to be used as a permanent means of charging. It's called the mobile connector. It's meant to be in the back of the car. It's still a great charging option to use while you're on the road, on the go, visiting family, friends. That's it. It's peace of mind. It's the insurance policy in case of emergency, right? And so when that's just in case you forget to use a supercharger or a destination charge, on your route. But you have it, and it's convenient and it's flexible. And keep in mind too, I always tell people that, look, you can stop at some of the country's like 16,000 RV park camps, site grounds or facilities, and you can use I guess there's about 100,000 plugs to charge, as they predominantly those power pedestals at those campsites. You do a lot of camping, they typically have maybe 120 outlet, and they have a 240 volt outlet, and that 240 volt outlet is generally a NEMO 1450 outlet. So they usually have those outlet configurations on their power pedestals. And so that's how you're supposed to be using the mobile connector. It's not meant to be used as a permanent means of charging. And so, if you're just thinking out of the box real quick, Tesla cut the cord on including the mobile connector with the EV due to numerous reported problems with both installers not installing the right materials or the highly recommended types of branded actual NEMO 1450 outlets that they're supposed to be using for that intense power draw requirement. And so if you look, there's 4 major NEMO 1450 outlet manufacturers, and 2 of them are the most dominated You can buy them at Lowe's, Home Depot. You can every single electric supply warehouse carries them.
Hmm.
And then the other two, Bryant and Hubble, those are the ones that not too many supply warehouses carry. You have to special order them. And then, of course, you're not going to find them at Home Depot or Lowe's or anywhere. Those are more specialty type
Right.
products. You can see that the lugs, the thickness, the grade of build is far superior than the others. The problem is 99% of every single NEMA 1450 outlet that was installed for the edge case on these mobile connector usage was literally using the cheaper brands. They did
Hmm.
not use the Bryant and the Hubble. And so we had to literally open up a service division just to correct everyone else's mistakes, because these power outlets, they were melting from the back, they were tripping the breakers. Basically the breakers there to protect the home so it's not going to catch fire. But
Right.
because the electricians, they're not properly torquing it, they're not using the right wire, they're obviously not using the right plug. And then of course if the user is not plugging in that adapter all the way into the actual receptacle itself, and maybe the prongs inside the receptacle are loosened over time because it's a cheap quality build, it just adds to heat and
Yeah.
resistance, and that
That makes
basically
sense.
all forms, those are all failure points, man. So if you look at that, it's a combination of installers not using the recommended materials and recommended products, and then the overheating issue. From that end, it kind of led Tesla to kind of start thinking about this in a greater aptitude. And so if you look at the open liability, the user era, if you're not seating it in properly, the adapter to receptacle usage, there's too many failure points inside that high power transfer system. And so
Yeah.
to
Are you
limit that
still
exposure.
doing a lot of NEMA
No,
installs?
no. In fact,
They've-
we were doing, I would say, um, before Tesla canceled it in April 2022, we were doing about 60% NEMA and 40% wall connector, believe it or not. And this
Yeah.
is out of a thousand, we do a few thousand installs every year. So that's a lot. That's a big percentage. 60% of the time we're going in and we're installing those Bryant, those Hubble
Yeah.
NEMA 1450 outlets. And so it's just because it's slightly cheaper. But I'm like,
Yeah.
this guy's buying a $75,000 car and he's going with the cheap. We're telling them, our sales team is meant to paint the picture and describe and explain everything we're explaining to you guys here
Right.
on why you need to be able to use these better built NEMA 1450 outlets. And yes, it is a slightly higher installation cost. So when you compare us to like a mom and pop electrician, they're going to come in at like $300. Well, we're coming in at 450. Well, why are we so high? Why are we higher? And so we have to explain these things. But most of the time, people don't care about it. They just care about cost. That's it. They just care about the price. And so we the customers that we do have, they are so thrilled that they went with us because we've explained these
Maybe it's because they couldn't
you know
negotiate their Tesla deal.
yeah,
They had to negotiate something.
they're not we can only negotiate so far, and so our pricing is pretty bare bones and locked into the minimum price possible, so that way
Right.
we're doing our part to kind of get that pricing down. But
Well,
if you look at
I've only bought 3 Teslas, and there's no negotiating anything with Tesla. Typically,
no,
is my point.
but Texas does a unique thing. They put the options there for you to choose, and so they
Yeah.
take away that idea of negotiating. If you think
Right.
about it, because you're kind of setting your own price.
Correct.
Like they didn't tell you, they didn't set the price. You selected the price, and so when
Correct.
you do that, it definitely kind of subliminally messes up with that perception from a customer's perspective. But I think if you look at the liability from the user and improper seating and the installation aspect, Tesla's trying to limit their exposure and their liability. And
Mhm.
so the mobile connector is
Yeah.
just that. It's a mobile friendly device. It's not meant to be used as a permanent means of charging.
Right.
And then also, if you look at the best interest of Tesla, to have the Gen 3 wall connectors installed more. Right now, we're installing, I'd say, 80% wall connectors.
Mhm.
Say almost 80 to 85% wall connectors. It's very, very few that we even do the NEMA 1450, if at all, because
Right.
most of the time we just stopped pushing the NEMA 1450. They stopped
Right.
including it. we stop pushing it. Now, if the customer says, "Hey, I purchased the mobile connector, I got this. Is there any way that we'll tell them everything we're talking about in this episode? We'll tell them, hey, this is what's going on. This is what you want to use. You know, do you still feel comfortable with it?" And most of the time, they're like, "No, I don't feel comfortable with it. Let's go with the mobile. Let's go with the wall connector.
The wall
I want to go with
connector.
the wall connector." Yeah, exactly. I want to do it. I want to do
That's
the home
definitely
charger.
the more efficient. I would imagine it's the more
Yeah.
efficient way, right? That's
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
overall.
it's less failure points, more efficient, and you actually get to still have the mobile connector in the back of
Yeah,
the car for that peace of mind. If you're
absolutely.
using the mobile connector for a permanent means of charging, it's stuck on the wall. You're not going to unplug it, throw it in the back of the trunk every single time you come home and come home.
Right.
You're not going to do it. It's
I rarely ever use mine.
there
I
you go.
I can count on two hands how many times I've used it outside of camping where I had
But
to use it.
it's good to have. You know, it's
Yeah,
really good to have. You know, and so if you look at the Tesla introducing the wall connector, installing that inside homes, you know, they can connect and control. They can offer more options to the customer, and especially with local utilities. And then of course, the ability for Tesla to cut cost. You know, that's like the third reason on why they decided to just stop including the mobile connector with all the vehicles. And so that was kind of a shot heard around the industry when Tesla did that in April 2022. But I think the industry kind of understood and adapted quick, you know, and
yeah,
Tesla did what they could to include in like while you're selecting the options to build the electric car, you can include purchase of the wall connector at that point, you
hmm
know, and that was a real good feature where Tesla, you know, was like, okay, how are you going to charge? Do you want this or that? And you know, the the wall connector is so cheap that it's like almost there, the same price as the mobile connector. And so you're like, I can get this mobile connector, but I can get this badass wall connector for like $100 more. Like, yes, I'm gonna choose that option. So all of these things kind of helped, um, you know, Tesla in their, I guess, ripping off the band-aid to not include that anymore in there. So, you know,
right.
now you know the three reasons, and I'm sure you know there were
I think
more.
it's good insight, man, because I know a lot of people, I'm sure, and if they didn't know, before or didn't even question it, you know,
Now you
it's
know now. It's because the national. It's look. You have installer not using the right materials and proper outlets. You have the National Electrical coming saying, "Hey, you need to do this GFCI thing from here on
right.
out," right? And because of the GFCI thing, the freaking thing's got internal GFCI protection and it's tripping itself. And so
hmm
that's causing. And then of course Tesla's like, "Dude, we need to cut costs." They're ramping up to try to cut costs as much as possible.
Right.
And so you have the combination of those three things, and that's kind of the value added conclusion from our conversation today. Those are the three reasons why Tesla just discontinued that. And so it did put a bad taste in everyone's mouth then. And our goal for this episode was just to kind of quench that and just kind of put a better taste in everyone's mouth. Like there are reasons why this happened. And hopefully you understand, like, you know what? I would have probably made the same choice. I would have probably discontinued it and allowed the customer to choose whatever charging option they want based on
I
those
know.
two,
Yeah.
you know? So that's
No,
it, man. James,
I
do you
always
have
opted
any?
to have a charger, man. So
You have any other questions or any other curiosities?
no, but I will say, I think efficiency is important in
Yep.
a luxury vehicle.
Yep.
So, I still have a Gen 2 from my first Tesla purchase. So I still have a Gen 2 wall charger.
Yep. Yep.
Believe
That
it or
thing's
not.
gonna
Yeah.
work. That thing's a
I
workhorse.
guess maybe I should upgrade. I don't know. Should I upgrade?
Well, believe it or not, I think like only like 5% of people. So when we install the Gen 3 wall connectors, we have to connect to it and provision it and make sure everything. But the customer still has to connect to it on their end through the app. And believe it or
Yeah.
not, like only like 5% of people actually connect to it through the app. There's not that many people that do it. So even though Tesla has this great function in it, the car is so smart. The car is able to do a lot of the functionality that you would otherwise have to set through the app and do the connected. But a lot of the Tesla, you know, really passionate Tesla guys, they'll go in and they'll connect their Gen 3 wall connectors so that way their chargers connected, their cars connected, their power walls connected, their solar's connected, their whole
Yeah.
home's connected right there, right? And
Right.
so that's where they want to be. They want to be fully integrated, fully connected, and that's
I'm
what
like
Tesla
the
offers.
old I'm like the old cell phone guy though. I'm like, I just need the phone to dial, like I just need this thing to charge. So if it charges fast, I'm good.
Well, that's our next episode is going to be about wireless charging and some of the myths about wireless charging, and that's one of the myths is that like would you ever go back to the remote control where you have to get up and actually change the channel? Like, no. Did you have a wireless device, right? Would you ever go back to the corded phone in your kitchen while you're talking on the phone? No. You have I don't even know if people have landlines these days, but I can guarantee if you have a landline, it's probably not a corded landline,
Right.
probably a
My
wireless landline.
6-year-old parents don't even have a landline. They even
Well,
know how
that's
to
it.
use, yeah, they even know how to use mobile technology, man. Like they're on every app there is, you know.
That's awesome, man. That's going to be the
Yeah.
next episode. So we definitely look. I wanted to thank the audience members, our listeners, our subscribers for their time. Look, guys, we can't do this without you. So look, I know we're all better for it. Go ahead and click the thumbs up icon, share, comment, subscribe to our channel. Let us know if we earned it. James, I want to thank you for coming
Thanks
on
for
board
having
and
me.
kind of sharing a little bit with us. Hopefully, you learned a little bit more today about mobile connector and kind of the nuances between the two different generations and some of the decisions that Tesla made on the back end to discontinue those. But I want to thank you again and thank our audience members again. Thank everyone for charging up with us today. Keep in mind, you can always find us at smartchargeamerica.com today. And remember, folks, if you can't charge, you can't drive. We'll see you next time.